When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
This is The Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic. The only thing worse than battling the heat on all your runs this summer is not being able to run at all due to an injury. Whether you need to take off a few days or several weeks, runners hate to be on the sidelines and immediately start worrying about losing their fitness. But what if I told you there was a way that you could not only keep, but build your running fitness, even with an injury? And even better, it's something you can do when you're not injured to supplement your running fitness safely as you age. Plus, it feels amazing on a hot summer day. Ready to dive in? Welcome to The Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic, and my mission is to help you improve your running, your mindset, and your life with science-backed training and plant-based nutrition. Today, we are going to talk about aqua jogging or deep water running. Whatever name you call it, it's one of the very best cross-training activities runners can do to build fitness and come back from injury. My conversation is with Jen Gavastis, a certified run coach and fluid running instructor. We talk about the benefits of water running, the technique and equipment you need to do it right, and exactly how you use it to replace some or all of your land running workouts. This episode is in no way sponsored by the Fluid Running Company, but they are offering a discount for their system, and you can find the code in our show notes. And of course, don't forget to stay tuned all the way at the end of the episode for another Mental Strength Minute. Fortify your mind in 60 seconds or less. And now, here's my conversation with Coach Jen. Welcome to The Planted Runner, Jen.
Thank you so much for having me, Claire. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, so let's dive right into the deep end. No pun intended. Okay, the pun's totally intended.
Absolutely.
We are going to talk about aqua jogging today, and not every runner has heard of this. So I would love for you to just start with the basics. What is aqua jogging and why is it good for runners?
So aqua jogging, I like to refer to it as deep water running because I do very little jogging while I'm in the water, but it also is referred to as aqua jogging as well. And you are in the deep water. You have a flotation device, flotation belt around your waist. You can be tethered or untethered if you've got a lane line or not. And you are doing a running motion. You are doing a running stride in the water without any impact. You're not touching the bottom of the pool floor. So you do need a deep pool, at least 6 feet, unless you're shorter. You can sometimes get away with a 5-foot pool. But it's an amazing workout. There's lots of great benefits because of the effects of the hydrostatic pressure. Obviously, no impact. So if you've struggled with injuries or you are injured as a runner, it's a great training option. And it's also just great to incorporate in your marathon training because it's got other benefits that are slightly different than land running.
Okay, we'll get into those benefits in just a minute. So why do we need to be in the deep end? Why can't we be running on the floor in the shallow end?
So it's a little bit different. First of all, if you're injured and you don't want that impact, it's just great to be in that deeper water where you're not touching. Because there is some impact if you're still standing on the bottom of the pool floor. I personally don't like to run where I'm touching the bottom because you wouldn't be wearing shoes. You wouldn't be wearing tennis shoes. So there's still some sort of impact there and it's not real comfortable for your feet. And also when you're in the deep water, you are vertically submerged, of course, and the water is up to about shoulder height. And that just has a little bit better benefits as far as those hydrostatic, pressure benefits that we were talking about on your cardiovascular system when you are vertically submerged up to about your shoulders, your neck. It's just a little bit greater benefits. And then you don't have that impact as well.
Okay, let's talk about the hydrostatic pressure. So the pressure of the water on your body, what's going on there?
So it's kind of has this like squeezing effect, kind of like a tube of toothpaste, where it's kind of helping return your blood flow to your heart a little bit quicker than if you were standing on land with gravity kind of pulling you down. It's allowing your heart rate to be lower because your blood flow is returned back to your heart a little bit faster. Your heart rate is a little bit lower, 10 to 15 beats, depending on what intensity you're moving at when you are vertically submerged in the water up to your shoulders, neck height. And also your stroke volume is increased because it's kind of helping, again, that squeezing effect on your cardiovascular system is helping to pump out that blood just a little bit faster. So your overall cardiac output is increased. It's a little bit better when you are running on the water compared to running on land. So you can be a little more efficient in the water.
Okay. So this is why I can't get my heart rate up when I'm aqua jogging. I've aqua jogged a lot and I can never get my heart rate up. So that's why. Is it the cold water too? The temperature of the water too?
The temperature will make a difference as well. Yeah, because your body's not heating up as fast. So yeah, the temperature of the water and typically when we're, in a pool, it's, upper 70s, 80 degrees, which is cooler than your body temperature. So yes, that will make a difference as well as that hydrostatic pressure effect. Yeah. So it might be a little bit more challenging, but we always tell runners, depending on the intensity you're working at, to add 10 to 15 beats to whatever your watch is saying in the water. You're going to add those beats to make it that land equivalent heart rate.
Okay. So let me just break that down a little bit more. So if I do heart rate training, which I don't like heart rate training, and everybody knows that I talk about all the time. But if I'm trying to be in zone whatever, and let's say my heart rate is, 140, what my watch says 140, I should actually, it's actually 155. Is that what you mean? Or equivalent to 155?
Yeah, somewhere in the 150 to 155 range, you would add that 10 to 15 beats to that number. Yeah, kind of 140 is probably in between the 10 to 15 beats, somewhere in that range. Yes, but whatever your watch is saying, you're going to add that number to whatever's reading on your watch.
Okay, let's zoom out a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your running background and why you love aqua jogging, deep water running so much.
So I've been running for a long time, since junior high school. I was one of those people that loved to run the mile in gym class, one of the few. And I was not in cross country or track. I was a dancer, but I still love to run just for fitness purposes, probably some weight loss purposes too with dance. But yeah, I'd go out there with my big Walkman back in the day when you're holding those giant Walkmans and running.
Yes, I remember.
Yes. I'm not sure how we did it back then, but we did. And I just always loved to run. And I would do 5Ks. Once I got to college, I was in the 5K scene, lived in the city of Chicago. So there's a 5K in the summer every weekend. And I got into that mode. But it wasn't until I was in my 40s, I'm 54 now, it wasn't until I was about 45 that I started thinking about the marathon. Disney had just started their marathon, I think in the, late mid-90s, something like that. So that was always on my bucket list because I'm a huge Disney fan. So if I'm going to do one marathon, it's going to be Disney. So I registered for that and had just run a half marathon that fall and thought, well, I'm already halfway there in the training. I might as well keep on going and do that January race. but I got injured. I had a bad hip flexor strain. I could not, tolerate that impact and continue going forward with especially my long run training. And so I was in physical therapy, and my physical therapist said, well, there's this class called fluid running. Mm-hmm. And she handed me a card with this information about fluid running, which is a deep water running program. And I kind of was dismissive. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm not doing aqua aerobics. I'm like, it's not going to be the same. And so I put it aside, and then it got closer and closer to race day. And I thought, I have to do something because I haven't been doing any long runs to speak of. So I called, and ironically, I knew one of the instructors. So locally here in the Southwest Chicago suburbs, we have in-person classes, in-person fluid running classes. So I was fortunate that way, that we had these in-person classes, and it was like 5 minutes from my house. And I went and took my first fluid running class, and that was it. And I was hooked. I thought, this is just such a gift to be able to still train and have that running stride in the water, all that resistance, as you're moving, through all that, increased pressure that the water offers. And I was hooked. And so I used that leading up to the Disney marathon, and I finished. It was my first marathon ever. It was just a little over 4 hours. I wasn't injured. I wasn't, you're always hurting and struggling at the end, but it was a successful race for sure.
So were you both land running and water running, or just water running all the way to the marathon?
I was just water running until about 4 weeks out. And then I was able to do a couple of, not 20 milers, but I was able to do like a 15, 16, 17, something like that. I think I got up to 16 or 17 for my longest run, before the taper began. And then,
do you feel like your fitness was able to increase or stay the same or maybe decline while you were in the water? Because I think that is everybody's biggest fear, is that, oh my God, if I stop running, even if I'm cross training, I'm going to either plateau or decline.
Yeah, no, I definitely felt like it improved, and it has continued to improve. So when I was using that as part of my marathon training for the first time, I've continued to keep fluid running in my marathon training since. And I've done 11 marathons now, 1 ultra, and will stay and has been a part of my marathon build always. I'm in the water at least twice a week, typically doing speed workouts. And as you get more proficient at the fluid running technique, you can really work hard in the water. You can really get your heart rate up there. And I definitely am getting my heart rate up there to that, tempo efforts, sprint efforts. My heart rate is way up there, but it takes time to develop that skill, because it's a little strange getting in the water and not touching the bottom and having your feet be relaxed because there's no foot strike, there's no toe off. So it's a little bit different. Your core is working more to keep yourself righted in the water and to stabilize as you turn over those arms and legs against all that resistance. There's a lot happening.
Yeah.
And it takes time to develop that skill, and then to be more intentional about the workouts in your training plan. Planning, okay, this is going to be my tempo workout. This is going to be my speed workout. Here's a recovery. So I think as my marathon cycles continued, I got more specific and intentional with my workouts in the water, with those fluid running workouts. And that helped me to improve my time over the years with my marathon. So the first one, I was kind of like figuring it all out. The next one, I was a little bit better. And then Fluid Running, Jennifer Conroy, the owner, founder of Fluid Running, came out with an app with app-based workouts. And she came out with like a 10K workout where it's a continuous run for 56 minutes based on like a 9-minute mile pace. And once she came out with that app, then I really started to hone in on those more specific workouts and more specific intensities that I would incorporate on land and bringing that into the water.
Okay, so let's talk about technique. Is it just the same as you're running on land?
It's very similar, but you definitely have to use more core. I mean, I think you can run on land and kind of be a little bit lazier about what's happening in your midsection, whereas in the water, if you're going to turn over your arms and legs at higher intensities, you really have to stabilize well with your core. I think it's also a great training benefit because you're not worried about where your foot's hitting the ground. You're not worried about that foot strike. Is something going to hurt? Am I going to step on a rock? Just my ankle.
Right.
You can focus in on your form a little bit better. Do I have, equal resistance front and back? Am I engaging my glutes and hamstrings on the stride back? Or am I neglecting that stride, that back stride? Am I using my arms? Are my arms flailing? They can't really flail as easily in the water as they could when you're running on land. Taking note of your upper body posture. It's just a little bit easier to focus and hone in on your form, I think, in the water. But otherwise, your feet are relaxed. So they're kind of like paintbrushes sweeping or brushing the bottom of the pool floor. You're not actively pointing and flexing your foot. That's probably the main difference.
Yeah.
And then also that you're just using a lot more core.
Okay. I can already hear people asking the question. So if my feet aren't doing the work, then my feet aren't getting the workout. My feet aren't getting stronger. What would you say to that?
They're still getting a workout. There's still lots of resistance as you move. So it's not that those muscles aren't engaged. They might be engaged in a little bit different manner. But also with these workouts, there's a few variations on the regular running stride where you do actively flex your foot and you can mix it up a little bit and actively engage those dorsiflexors, or those plantar flexors. Trust me, your calves are working for sure in the water just because of all the resistance. I just tell new fluid runners, not to grip with their feet so that there's no tightening of their calves because they're activated for sure.
After a short break, I'll be back with more of my conversation with Jen Gavastis. The Planted Runner is sponsored by Liquid IV. I know most runners dread summer running, but I've got to tell you, I love it. The long days, the lack of layers of gear, it's just my favorite. But of course, I make it a priority to stay hydrated, and this year, that means Liquid IV. Summer is the perfect time to try their new Arctic raspberry flavor. Plus, Liquid IV has sugar-free solutions powered by Live Hydra for smart hydration. You can pre-hydrate before your run, add a stick to your bottle to carry with you, and naturally, you'll want to have it to add to ice-cold water after your run. Just one stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. Squeeze the most out of your summer with Liquid IV. Tear, pour, live more. Go to liquidiv.com and get 20% off your first order with code PLANTED at checkout. That's 20% off your first order with code PLANTED at liquidiv.com. And we're back with more of my conversation with Coach Jen. You mentioned being tethered or untethered.
Yes.
So let's talk about that a little bit. In my experience, tethering is way better because otherwise you're sort of moving all around the pool. And especially if there's other people involved, you kind of want to stay a little closer to the edge. So let's talk about the tether. What's going on there?
Yeah, the tether, you'll loop through your belt and then tether to the lane line if you have that available. And I too prefer to tether because I don't like drifting about and having to turn around and go back. But you can do it untethered. It's just a little bit more challenging if you're not wanting to travel as much. You have to kind of find that equal resistance front and back. But as a runner, I think we just are so used to that forward motion that it's tricky as a runner to stay in one place.
Yeah.
For me, for sure. I've been doing this for 9 years now, fluid running for 9 years, and I cannot be in one place. And I know many fluid runners who are great at it. That doesn't work for me. So I prefer to be tethered for sure. But it's absolutely doable.
It's optional.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the belt that you're wearing, it's like you can just, order it from online or Fluid Running. Is it
Sure.
a special belt? Can you use like a pool noodle or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I suppose you could wrap a pool noodle around you. I know people that are a little bit more afraid of the water. Occasionally they'll have a belt and the pool noodle to give them a little bit more buoyancy, but the pool noodle is not going to buckle. You want the belt super snug around your waist so it's not riding up on your rib cage, just so you can breathe a little easier, and it gets a little annoying if it's riding up. So you can find it on the fluidrunning.com website. Amazon has them. It's kind of like those old fashioned flotation belts that we, along with those Walkmans, used to use in the water and think that was
Right.
perfectly safe. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So can you just simply translate your running workouts into the pool? So let's say you have a plan already set, you get injured, or even if you're not injured, you want to translate some of those into the pool. How do you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. You can translate those from land to water, and you're going by time and heart rate. So if you're looking at your watch and you're finished with the workout, over the course of, let's say, an hour, you're not going to cover the same distance on your watch that you would if you were running on land because of all that resistance. Your legs just can't turn over that distance. Water is over 800 times denser than air, so you're not going to be able to turn them over as fast. But you're using your knowledge of what your time would be in that intensity. So let's say I was doing a tempo run, like a 1 mile tempo repeats. And let's say I was typically do those tempo miles in 7.5 minutes at like a 90% of my max heart rate intensity. So that's what you want to be looking at. I'm going to do 7.5 minutes. I'm going to get my heart rate up to 90% minus that 15 beats. So it will still be a little bit lower looking at your watch. And that's what you're basing it off of. And then, any workout can be translated really in the water. And again, she's got some great track-based and tempo-based workouts on the Fluid Running app as well that are already timed for you. And it's coach-led, motivating, to keep your mind, occupied and have somebody calling them out. And it may not be exactly the same times you would run, but you're maybe running, like, let's say it's an 8-minute tempo and you're usually 7-minute or 7.5-minute mile tempo. Well, you're covering a little bit more ground,
right?
But you're keeping it at that same intensity. And then you don't have to worry about looking at a clock or looking at your watch. So that's a great option too.
Yeah. Speaking of your mind, I think one of the biggest complaints about being in the pool and running is it's kind of boring. It really is. Like, you've got to have all your mental strength techniques ready to go because sloshing around the pool is nothing like running outside. So talk about that.
We get that question a lot, which I find is kind of funny. I mean, I guess because I love fluid running and I've done it for so long now. But I don't know how much different is it than jumping on a treadmill and you're looking at the wall. But with the app-based workouts, you have the water resistant earbuds in your ear. So you're listening to coach-led workouts, with motivational, phrases and, keeping you going the whole time. So there's someone with you in your ears, keeping you moving, calling out your intensity, checking in on your form. You have someone with you that's, running with you. If I'm doing a long run in the water and I've, finished the 10K workout from the app and I have to do another 2 hours because I've done up to 3 hours and 15 minutes in the water when I couldn't do my long runs on land, then I would switch to a podcast or to my favorite playlist and just keep on moving and check in with myself and make sure I'm still at that intensity and keeping my good form. But some people need that external voice. So that's why that app is great with the various workouts to keep you in tune and like, okay, am I still finding my glutes and hamstrings? Is my core still a part of this working party? Am I still at that 90%? And I don't have to look at the clock. But yeah, otherwise, if you're doing those long runs, you can listen to the Planted Runner while you're
there we go.
doing your
yes.
long runs, for sure.
Yeah, I honestly think headphones are key. Waterproof headphones. There's lots of them out there. They're not very expensive. I'm sure there are some, hardcore people that can do it without any distraction. I don't recommend it. Definitely want to have something to entertain yourself or keep you on track. So, we've talked about a lot of the benefits of it. There's got to be some downsides. What do people complain about? What are the downsides to this kind of workout?
I don't think there are any downsides. I think ideally it's a balance of both. Again, I think it's such a gift, especially as you get older. There's a little bit more risk for injury, especially when you're training for a marathon. If you want to incorporate speed training, there's a little more risk going out to a track the older you get and doing that high intensity on the track. It's just part of getting older. So again, I don't do any track workouts. I do them all in the water. So I shouldn't say I don't do any track workouts. They're just all fluid running based track workouts. I think sometimes, is that
the reason you do that in the water and not on land? Fear of injury or injury risk?
Yeah, I just am a little more injury prone. I think part of it is the dancing. I tore my Achilles tendon and had surgery, came back from that, again, using fluid running in a huge way to come back from that. So yeah, it's just not, I can only get out on the land myself for what works for me, like 2 to 3 times a week on land. And then 2 times or so a week in the water is a great balance for me. So I think ideally, there's a balance between the two. I wish I had discovered fluid running earlier in my life, quite honestly. Maybe I would have avoided some injury. Who knows? But I think the one other thing people find or say to me is that with the long run, there's a huge mental component of being out there on land for a long extended period of time. And being in the water, you still have that and you still bring your nutrition and your hydration poolside, but it is a little bit different mentally being on land and pounding the pavements or the trail for 3 hours than being unweighted, no impact in the water. And you're not like, your body's not overheating like it would on land as well, that kind of thing. So I think maybe mentally there's sometimes can be a little with that long run, especially.
Yeah. Because the impact of running is actually good for you up to a point, of course, but impact makes our bones, tendons, joints stronger if done in the appropriate dose.
Sure.
So, so you're definitely getting your heart healthy by getting in the pool, but you are missing that impact factor. That being
said, I know there has been some studies with the resistance actually helping bone density as well. And I don't have those studies in front of me to quote, but I know we did have a fluid runner that shared her story of being in that osteopenia range. And she just used fluid running. She was just getting in the water, doing that a couple times a week. And she came out of being osteopenic. So I think there is some benefit to it. Maybe it's not quite the same as, pounding on the ground as far as bone density, but there is some bone density benefit for moving against all that resistance.
Okay, good point. And, of course, I think we also need to mention not everybody has access to a pool.
Yes, that is true. I do feel blessed, to have a deep pool, like 5 minutes from multiple pools within my, quick driving range within a 20-minute radius. But not everybody has access to a deep pool. And Jennifer Conroy did come out with a shallow water workout some shallow water workouts for those that don't have access to a deep water pool for that reason, because she got a lot of requests because they just didn't have any access to a deep pool. So yeah, that's another option. And then you would be getting a little bit of that impact.
Yeah. So let's say you want to try fluid running. You live nowhere near Chicago or any place where you can do it live. You do have a pool at your gym, let's say, and you want to show up at your gym with a funny looking flotation device, tie yourself to the lane lines. I mean, that sounds, you got to have a certain personality just to go ahead and, go for this kind of thing. So how would you walk somebody through this, showing up at the lap pool time with all your aqua jogging stuff?
Yeah, for
Talk us through that.
You'll probably get a few looks. And I'm so not used to that because we've had these in-person classes in the Chicagoland area for a long time. So there's a lot of fluid runners around this area, but I have had those looks. We have a place in northern Wisconsin, and I've taken my belt up to the North Woods and gotten in there for an hour plus, and actually had a kayaker kind of going around, making circles around me, making sure I wasn't like drowning.
Injured.
Yeah, injured or drowning. And and then he finally asked me, he said, "Are you going for a world record or a Guinness record for the longest time treading?" I'm like, "No." And he couldn't see my legs. So because the water is pretty dark, it's not like a bright.
Okay. So he couldn't see your flotation device. It looked like you were just treading water. Okay.
He couldn't see my flotation device. He couldn't see my legs. Couldn't really see what I was doing. And he was a little nervous, but I assured him, no, I'm fluid running. So yeah, just be confident. I suggest you go to the fluidrunning.com website and look at the tutorials. If you purchase the system and have the app, just so you kind of have a visual of the form before you get in and start listening to the audio cues. Super helpful. And then just people will come up to you and ask you, what are you doing? And share with them what it is you're doing and the benefits of it. And it will catch on. I'm sure you'll recruit some more fluid runners.
Yeah, I'll speak from experience. I think some of the lap swimmers get kind of annoyed if you're taking up a whole lap lane. But if you have a pool where you reserve a lap lane, you can do whatever you want. So hopefully there's a spot for you. But yeah, talk to the people at the gym and explain what you're doing. So there's no irritation, because swimmers, they get pretty possessive of their lap lanes,
But you could share the lap lane with them because you're only taking one small side of it. They could share it with you. Or in our case, the pools that I go to, the one that I go to, they have like a diving well. So we usually rent space in what's called the well.
Perfect.
Yeah. So then we're not taking up a whole lane. You just have this little rectangular half of a lane, but wider. And that's what the fluid runners use. Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. So what should we be doing outside of the pool? Because yes, there is some more resistance. Yes, you're working your core a little bit more, but it's not sufficient to call it strength training, correct?
Yeah, I would still do your runner focused strength training. I would still work on those hips, for sure. Yeah, upper body core. Yeah, I would still incorporate some strength. It's not my favorite thing to do, but I try to force myself to do it. I don't know why I'm a cardio junkie, but I have learned that with all these injuries, it's still important to keep within your plan.
Okay, good. So tell us some success stories of, injured runners or people that have really had, besides you, of course, who've had just, an interesting or kind of an amazing turnaround with aqua jogging or fluid running.
Yeah, I've had a couple of fluid runners that I've coached incorporating fluid running and land running, or in some cases all, until we got a little closer, all fluid running. One woman that's 73 and she's still going strong. She's run Boston several times, but she's had several injuries and surgeries along the way. And she discovered fluid running a couple years ago and reached out to Jennifer Conroy, who connected her to me. And she has been very successful incorporating fluid running and her land running and making it a part of her marathon training for sure. And she just came off of a major surgery of one of her tendons in her ankle and was not running for about probably 6 months, maybe even a little longer. And she wanted to do a half marathon in Iceland. And she finished that successfully. So using fluid running, yes, as part of that training.
Amazing. That's amazing. Well, any other tips or tricks or advice for people who are thinking about trying it that we haven't talked about?
I can't really think of any other tips. I would just say be confident in the effectiveness of deep water running, of fluid running. It is really going to be an effective part of your training program. So don't be afraid to try it, and don't be afraid to maybe even if you're not injured, take away 1 day a week of your land run and get in the water if you have access to a deep water pool, and just substitute out. And maybe even if it's just for your recovery run, try that.
Yeah.
Some sort of easy run. Just take your recovery day in the water. There's several options that are easier workouts, less intense on that app. And just try your recovery run in the water and see how great you feel coming off of a long run or a tough workout and then jumping in the water the next day. And just kind of that compressive effect kind of feels like it's flushing out to all of that discomfort, all those toxins in your muscles, all that soreness. Kind of feels like it's flushing it away as you're getting a great workout at the same time.
Well, great. Well, I think that's a perfect place to kind of wrap this all up, Jennifer. Thank you so much for talking with us about fluid running, deep water running, aqua jogging, whatever you want to call it, and how you can incorporate it into your training plan. Thanks so much for being here.
All right. Thank you so much, Claire. Nice to be here. Thank you.
And now it's time for the Mental Strength Minute. Fortify your mind in 60 seconds or less. Today's topic is ride the wave. In running and in life, there will be ups and downs, but when you're in the moment of a really tough run, it can be hard to imagine getting out of the struggle. So instead of fighting those low points, ride the wave. Accept that you are in a rough patch, but it's temporary. The high points are fleeting as well, so enjoy those moments, but let them flow like a wave. When you approach your runs from this perspective, you'll suffer less through those down points because you know the high point is coming next. Thank you for listening to The Planted Runner, part of the Evergreen Podcast Network. Don't forget that you can enter to win a free custom training plan for your next race and get featured on the show. Just write an Apple Podcast review and enter at theplantedrunner.com/PRLab. Of course, reviews are the #1 way to boost this show's reach, and it's a great way to tell me what you'd like to hear next because I read every single one. Have a great run today.